Welcome to Digital Garden State, a podcast by the New Jersey Health Information Management Systems Society.
Welcome to the New Jersey Health Information Management Systems Society podcast series, where we discuss emerging trends in healthcare technology and the impact on our industry. New Jersey HIMSS is a consortium of healthcare professionals, providers, and vendors who are committed to promoting constant improvement in the use of information technology within the healthcare industry. I'm your host, Mike Fortino, current New Jersey HIMSS board member and account executive with GalaxE Solutions. Today's podcast episode is a continuation of our Customer Story series, where we highlight one of our great sponsors, Caregiver Smart Solutions. Before we get started, I just want to emphasize that our chapter is supported by some amazing companies, and without their sponsorship, we could not deliver on our mission of healthcare technology advocacy and learning. So let's get started. Today we have a great guest whose company provides what I think, and I believe our listeners will too, a really smart solution to proactively monitoring family that are aging in place in their own homes. Ryan Hurd is our guest, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of Caregiver Smart Solutions, whose company is headquartered right here in New Jersey. Ryan's company is also a new sponsor and active member of the New Jersey HIMSS chapter. Ryan, welcome, and thanks for being on the show
Mike,
today.
how are you doing? I really appreciate you having me on. This is great.
Awesome. You know, I'm having the best day of my life, Ryan, as I usually do. So, but I'm especially glad to be speaking with you today. I mean, you know, we had a conversation previously, and every time I go back and I look at your website, which is, by the way, let's make sure we get that out early on. That is caregiversmartsolutions.com. I hope I had that right.
That is
right?
correct, 100%. caregiversmartsolutions.com.
Awesome. Too often we wait to the end of the podcast and heaven forbid people tune out too soon. We want to make sure we get that up front.
True.
Right. But, based on our discussions and based on personal experiences, I'm just very excited to have this conversation with you today. And what I'd like to start off with is if you could give us a little bit of about your background and then, a little bit about the company, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, as you said, and you're absolutely correct, my name is Ryan Hurd. I am the founder and CEO of Caregiver Smart Solutions. I've been in the IoT industry and technology for 30 years. I actually wrote the book on smart home called Join the Smart Home Revolution. And I give a lot of presentations and lectures talking about how we can leverage technology to work for us as humans. So that is phenomenal. Unfortunately, my father got cancer, and through his chemo treatments, I wanted to know how he was doing. And not only was it the internal numbers where the industry is really focused on, right? Blood and all those things, blood ox and blood pressure and all that wonderful stuff. But I wanted to know if he was taking his medication. And then I wanted to know if, he was up all night throwing up. Was the medication working? Was he moving around, or was he just sitting on the chair? So that's where Caregiver Smart Solutions started. And today, I'm very happy to say that we are helping a ton of people because we are basically providing a solution for the problem in the industry, which is how do I get that data, that information of environmental and habits? Because knowing that person, whether their blood is okay, their oxygen level, diabetes, that's fine. You guys are great at that. But what about everything else? The physical reactions to that, the fall, the compliance if that person just got out of a skilled nursing facility. If mom is supposed to walk around the house 3 times because she broke her ankle and we want her to keep on that positive trajectory, you know as well as I do, you're going to call that person, hey, Mary, are you doing your stuff? Oh, 5 times today.
Right. And, when you're making those panicked calls, right? You then in the back of your mind, am I also going to cause panic on,
Exactly.
And are they then going to, am I going to create an accident here, an event where they're going to fall. It's all the
Yeah,
above.
it's really about how do we provide the correct solution to the problem that is simple and effective, and
Hmm.
how do we gain compliance from that person? Because we can have the best stuff in the world, and doctors know
Right.
this, right? The industry knows this. If you have the best ideas in the world, but that person doesn't do it, whether it's take their medication, whether it's follow their discharge plan, whether it's whatever, well, doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I've got that. I have an aunt, elder aunt. She's over 90 right now. She just had an event, congestive heart failure. She lives by herself. She's about 2.5 hours from where I'm at. I'm her closest living relative right now, and I'm worried about her taking her
yeah.
medications, right, and where she's at in the home, and it's a and she just she has a mind of her own. She's still sharp, and boy, to get her to do something is
Yeah.
a little
But
different. Is
But
difficult.
that's the problem, right? So that person is home alone, which is great. I mean, that's where we want to be. You're going to want to
Mhm.
be there. She wants to be there. There's millions of other people that want to be in their home because that's safe, that's secure, that's comfort level. Um, but the
Mhm.
problem is that, as you said, she's 2 hours away and you can't always be there. Even if she was 20 minutes away, maybe you could run over
Mhm.
there, for lunch or in the morning or afternoon, but you can't always be there. And that is a little bit of an issue because how is that person doing right now? And that circle of care, whether it's yourself, whether it's the doctors, whether it's the non-medical, in-home aid,
Mhm.
you guys need information. How is this person doing? Are they taking their medication? Have they been up all night throwing up? Are they lethargic? All of these, I want to say, intangibles, until
Mhm.
now, because you need that clarity to give them the best care possible. But the good news is that technology is available now.
And let's talk about that a little bit. In my personal, thoughts that all around that, the two use cases. One where, my aunt, I'm worried about her
Right.
falling, right? I'm worried about her complying with medications. Can you talk about those two use cases and how your solution, addresses
Yeah.
those two?
Great questions. When you think of things like this, what do you need? I need real-time information right now.
Hmm.
Correct. So let's take falls. There is product out there that was developed in the 1990s, which has done its job. I've fallen and I can't get up. Great. As we all
Yeah.
know, there's a bunch of issues with that. If you can get that person to wear it, I mean, that's phenomenal. And they should. It's just another layer of protection. But as you said in your aunt's case,
Yep.
she might not wear it because she might not think
Right.
she wants to wear it. We've heard so many excuses. It's the button of death, which
Hmm.
was the most interesting one.
Right.
So if somebody's not going to wear it, and the other reason why they don't wear it is because when they come home, they feel safe in the home. But the reality is most events happen in that home. So if we have a
Right.
person that doesn't want to be compliant, they don't want to wear anything, they don't want to change their habits, how do we deal with this? Of course, you could use a camera, but you know as well as I know, cameras are intrusive and there's HIPAA and all that
Hmm.
other wonderful stuff. Matter of fact, whether it's a camera, whether it's a listening device, they're just not appropriate for in-home health assessment, that kind of stuff. It's a different from a Zoom call where you can get on with the
Hmm.
doctor and talk about things, but there's got to be a better way. And that's what we're
Hmm.
doing by leveraging basically yesterday at the HIMSS gathering in Woodbridge. That was a great thing
Hmm.
there. We were talking about all the latest in technology, AI, machine learning. That's exactly what we're doing by leveraging today's technology using smart sensors that feed the data up to the cloud, where we then add machine learning, which basically is looking at that baseline, and then
Hmm.
AI for that predictive modeling. And then that information comes to the dashboard or, your smart app. You'll be able to know if that person has fallen, you know, whether they can actually push a button, that's great. Unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, they don't fall in a convenient area. right? If you're in an assisted living
Yeah.
facility, they don't fall next to that pull string. If you're someplace else, they're not wearing their device or they don't have the
Right.
capability of pushing it. That's what we're focused on. We're focused on based on the environment, based on their habits over time, based on knowing what's normal. This is out of the ordinary. That's how we're doing falls.
Gotcha. Tell me a little bit more about the type of sensors and how you've got them configured, or the configurations within the home environment.
So it's a suite of sensors, and sensors are looking at everything between movement in the environment in different rooms, transferring from different rooms. It's looking at temperature inside the environment. It's looking at humidity. So, hygiene
Mm-hmm.
is really important. That person should be taking a shower every couple of days or a bath. So we're looking at things like that. We can also look at the stove. Is the stove on, and did that person just walk out the front door and not come back in? We're looking at doors. It's all the activities of daily living. But the sweet spot is how we take all these data points and how we
Right.
put them through the algorithms to know what is that baseline of that individual. So, for example, if your aunt, if she normally gets up once a night, every night, well, that's normal for her. So that's a green check mark. That's not an issue. But if all of a sudden she starts getting up 2 or 3 times a night, that's a problem. One night that could be an
Right.
anomaly, but the second night it's a problem. So we're facilitating that information so you can ask the correct questions.
Gotcha. Yep. It just makes perfect sense. And it's too often, you try to take, I guess, those use cases, to an extent where you're trying to solve the
Right.
problem, right? Not necessarily just take that cue, right? Take that event that is out of the norm and be able to then act on that,
Well,
right? And then do the
right.
follow up.
It's acute versus chronic. Did that person fall?
Mhm.
Or as humans, we're very bad at looking or understanding changes over time. Like, listen, I should probably eat a little less junk. The reality is, I know exactly
Mhm.
what to do about it because I'm an athlete and I have full control. It's about what I put in my mouth. But I'll be
Right.
honest, I love ice cream and cookies and Oreos. Basically, anything that has sugar in it, I love it. Now, with that said,
Right.
by having
Yeah.
that non-emotional data based on habits, because guess what? The habit is the only thing you can't lie your way out of, right? Because we're creatures of
Right.
habit.
Yeah.
But then looking at that over time, we can start seeing metaphorically that, you know, how is that person being? Are they changing? I mean, literally to the point of it could be early on stage dementia. If somebody's forgetting something, okay, but now they start forgetting to close the front door, forgetting to turn off the stove, forgetting to take their medication. You start seeing
Hmm.
compounding things like that over time, chronic issues. You can start mapping that. And then once you can start mapping that, you can start managing that. And that's exactly what we were talking about yesterday at the conference. How do we leverage AI and all this technology to help us as humans for better outcomes?
Right. When you talk about the mapping, right, or the modeling, is there an initial period where you've got to do that initial collection of data, right,
Yes.
to create that model? Can you talk a little bit about that? What does that really entail? What does that
It
take?
takes about 2 weeks. So if you think of it like this, once you set up the system and you put in the initial data, who is this person, where do they live, all that kind of stuff, just the basic stuff. And, if you know what time they generally go to bed, what time they generally wake up, all of those things, that would be great.
Right.
From that standpoint, it
Yeah.
takes about 2 weeks for our system to start understanding what is normal for this person. And then over time, if you think of it as, again, data, plotting data points over time, this is where we can start
Yep.
seeing anomalies. Now, I am not a doctor. I will be the first one to tell you that. And that's why we've kind of talked about this yesterday at HIMSS. right? There is technology, which is great. If you think of technology as a tool and data as knowledge, and when you combine both of them together, I mean, for us, it's not about aging. What it's really about is living. So how do we enable this person to live? And how do
Mm-hmm.
we give that circle of care, that doctor, yourself? How do we give you that information so you can make that best possible decision for your loved one or for your patient?
Yeah. 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 You know, that was one of the things that we had talked about previously, right? And that you talked about, it's not about aging, it's about living. You know, that really does hit home because that's what everyone's
Right,
after, right? And it just, you know, it's those solutions or the potential of the practical solutions to help us get there. I mean, you know, when you deliver something like that, that really has an
yeah.
impact. I mean, you
And
know
it
what I
needs
mean?
to be simple, effective, and
Yeah.
reliable. Sometimes using that latest Jetson kind of stuff gets us in trouble.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you know, of course, the technology will advance. It will get to the point where, you know, you'll be able to, you know, take care of all of the
Right,
vitals, right? In addition to everything
correct.
else, right? But, you know, tell me a little bit more or talk a little bit more about the idea around medications,
Yes,
right? Because I know that you've got a roadmap and you're talking about some um, smart
yes.
caps based on the medication bottles, things like that. But how are you handling
That's
that
a great
today?
question. So I'll answer it in two parts, today and tomorrow, and then the future. But I'm going
Great,
to start with this.
perfect.
As of today, there is no technology out there that can tell whether that person took one, two, three, five pills, if they took the right pill at the right time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just not there. So, with that said, the best thing you could do is have a human being give that pill to that person and watch them physically swallow that. And even that, sometimes they get away with, hide it in their cheek and whatnot.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for the average person, how do we deal with this? For us, we look at it as kind of points of granularity or stages. So, I'll take my father, for example. He has cancer. He is tough as nails. He's actually gone through it 3 times. Wonderful experience. But
Oh, wow.
he's a fighter. But he's taken this medication for neuropathy, and he has to take it on a 24-hour schedule. So if he takes it at 1, he's got to take it at 1 the next day.
Hmm.
So for him, if we monitor the cabinet or the drawer where he keeps his medication, I know he is taking that
Hmm.
medication. So for me, the most important thing is A, did he open the drawer? And B, was it at the right time? So being able to track that.
Right.
And the problem with generally the way the industry does it right now is do me a favor, just write down to make sure that you're, taking at the right time, journaling. Or they're asking that
Right. Right.
person, his name is Tom. Tom, could you remember on Tuesday what time did you take it? I mean, listen, I can't even remember what
Oh,
I had for dinner last night. And you're
same here.
you're
Same
asking my
here. Right.
father, who has
Yeah.
had cancer 3 times, that's gone through 3 bouts of
Right.
chemo, which we all know isn't the best thing for the
Oh,
brain,
man.
to ask him right. There's got to be a better
Right.
way. And this is that better way. Now,
Hmm.
for, let's say, my 96-year-old grandmother, who is phenomenal, but she's a little forgetful. Somebody like her, we need a little more granularity. It's not just the opening of the medicine cabinet, it's also the 10 different medications she's taking. So, how do you track them? So, for us, we're looking at smart bottle
Hmm.
caps. So, this way, not only can we track any one of the 10 different medications, vitamins, stuff that she's taking, we can track it on based on time, track it on movement, track it on all these things, but also track things like maybe this medication needs to be in the refrigerator because it has to be at a certain humidity and temperature level as opposed to being left on the counter.
Yeah.
So if that was important, I could
Yeah.
monitor mom or grandma taking that medication, and then all of a sudden I see it start warming up and be like, oh, it's not back in the fridge. Call up grandma. Hey, can you do me a favor? I think that medication is out on the counter. Could you check for me? Oh, God, I forgot. And it goes back in the fridge. It's all about
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
that fly on the wall because at the end of the day, what do we all want, right? doctors and PTs, OTs, we want to fix the person up. We want the person to have a good life. We want them to be in less pain, less illness. And
Mhm.
here's one way that we can
Yep.
really like solve that problem of compliance and get ahead of things, because readmittance, it's expensive. And it's usually because that person
Yes, it is.
didn't do
Yeah.
something.
Yep.
That person that came out of the skilled nursing facility that was supposed to walk around the house 3 times, she was doing great with the PTs in there, and then in that discharge paper, she's supposed to just get up and walk around. Well, now
Yeah.
3 weeks later, she's
Oh, yeah.
sat on her butt the entire time, and she gets up that one time, boom, she falls, and now she's
Yep.
back in the hospital.
This, that. It's interesting as you say that, because that expense is something that everyone is impacted by, right? And even if someone, this solution, there's always the assisted living
Yeah.
option, right? But can people afford that,
And you know what? That
right?
scenario,
Right. It's that in
yeah,
between. It's all of those decisions and questions, and with a solution like
yeah,
this, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to find out if you can still, that person can
right.
still stay at
Well,
home
and
and be
even in an
safe,
assisted living
right?
facility,
And
that exact same situation can happen, because assisted living is not a nursing home. They still
Mhm.
have their private residence. And yes, you have more eyeballs on it, which is
Sure.
great. But at night,
Yeah.
the issue
Yep.
is, a fall doesn't help anybody. If we pick on my grandma or your aunt, the reality is she doesn't want to go to the hospital. I mean, we have wonderful people in the hospital. We have Chilton, which is in my town. Atlantic Healthcare is wonderful. I love them, but I want to love them from afar. No, no offense, guys.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't
Right.
think they're taking offense either.
So it doesn't help the system if she gets readmitted. It doesn't help her because she doesn't want to go there. It doesn't help you because, now you have to drop everything and you got to go over, Mom, what happened? Like it doesn't help
Yeah.
anybody. But yet there's finally that technology that we can start putting it in and start leveraging for us as humans. Make it work for us finally, for once.
Hey, when you talk about that, as far as assisted living, yeah, I could see this would be really complementary and of great use
Yeah.
within an assisted living facility. Absolutely. I mean, even in skilled nursing facilities as well, right? Because there's only so many people and can be in so many places at one time.
If you think of it, anything that has a door and when it closes, it's a black hole of information. So whether mom is living home, if she's in an apartment, if she's in a condo, an assisted living facility, wherever that is, when they close that front
Right.
door, it's a black hole of information. And you just need a little bit of that knowledge, that clarity of care for when you can't be there.
No, that's great. Absolutely. I'm taking a look at time, and I think that what I'd like to do is suggest that we do a follow up podcast, another session, because what I'd like to do is explore how your solution would be a potential fit within some of the nursing facilities, some of the hospital systems that had their ambulatory services, right? They're at home, I should say,
Right?
they're at home services, and how they could benefit from using something like this. So maybe we should. I'd like to do that and kind of tackle that at a separate time, if that's okay with you.
That'd be a great idea. We could do a part 2 of
Yeah,
caregiving.
I love the part twos. Those are awesome. And you know what? I really want to get to the point of talking to you a little bit about your Ironman experience. You've run a couple marathons over there, really, and really talk about the book you put together there as well.
Sure.
I mean, that'd be fantastic. We're probably going to have part 2, 3, and 4. So be
Hey,
ready,
I'm ready
everybody.
for it. Not a problem.
Okay. Well, listen, this has been great information, great discussion. But before we close, let's just make sure we got your URL for your website straightened out, right? And I'll let you
Sure.
do that
You can
one.
always reach me at caregiver caregiversmartsolutions.com. Again, that's caregiversmartsolutions.com. Or you can use that phone that we all used to use, right? It's 888-585-5022. Again, 888-585-5022.
And your email is Ryan at
Caregiver Smart Solutions. Yep, correct.
Perfect. Well, that wraps up our discussion for today, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Stay tuned for more episodes in this podcast series, and by all means, check out our other podcasts on your favorite podcast platform. We are New Jersey HIMSS, that's NJHIMSS, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podbean, and TuneIn plus Alexa. Please subscribe to our channel on those platforms, and please hit the like buttons. We really appreciate that. And you can also find our podcast on our website, and that's njhims.org, njhims.org. Thank you, Ryan, and thanks to all our
Thanks,
listeners.
Mike.